Welcome back everybody. So guys, here in this lecture, because we just talked about the basics of the Bootstrap, so I'm going to talk about the very important thing once we come to the Bootstrap. So the grids are really important in a Bootstrap because uh, in general ways, people generally use the Bootstrap for its grids. Because if you just know the Bootstrap grids, you do not need to make the grids, you do not need to make the website alignment, you do not need to make the website layout and everything has been done by the Bootstrap. You just need to apply the Bootstrap and you just need to use the elements of the Bootstrap, and here you go. So the very basic thing when it comes to the Bootstrap grid system, it called the container. So everything should be in a container when it comes to the Bootstrap. When it comes to the website, so one more important thing is when we are talking about the layout. So Bootstrap layout is responsive, as you know that it's a mobile first program. We just discussed about it in previous lectures. So absolutely, I'm gonna go from there. So I'm making a div. Oh man, a div here. And I'm going inside that div and adding a class. Whatever you want to apply to the Bootstrap, you need to use a class. The class is the CSS element. By adding, if you just want to add some kind of CSS, we use the class, or if you just want to assign some kind of a JavaScript element, we use the class. So Bootstrap is a framework which consists of the CSS and a JavaScript element. So that's why the class is a perfect thing. In some ways, sometimes in Bootstrap we have to use some ID things too, but for now the class is okay. We'll be using the IDs when we will be talking about the JavaScript elements of the Bootstrap. For now, I'm going to apply the container. Okay, cool. So these are the command. I'm not going to buy, at least for now. I have a paid version too, but I'm not going to use it here, at least. That's on my laptop system. So by the way, so here the container, the p tag, and the jumbotron. If I just make anything, or I just make a div here, another div. Oh, come on. Okay, I just can't remove the M because it just pressed by me multiple times. Okay, so new jumbotron, whatever you want to type, you can. And there I'm going to apply that class, the same class I've applied previously, the jumbotron, the class. So jumbotron, and save it. Now here I'm just typing old jumbotron. Save it. Now go to the browser and check this out if it's going perfectly. Refresh that. Now we got two jumbotrons. You can see that the old jumbotron and a new jumbotron. You can see that it's really you can say it's shrinked, and it's a kind of it's collapsed, a very tiny element. So why it is like that? Because it's inside a container. Container has its own rule. If you look at it in a little more deep, or in this way, you can see that if I just do this, you can see that it's getting smaller and smaller. It's not crossing the borders at all. You can see that. And finally it became very smaller. The spaces became too less, but at least they're still there, as you can see. And in that way it's much big. So this is actually called the container. Basically this container is a sure size, a certain size of a website. That's why this is here. But if you just want a kind of a fluid container, you can see that it's good when you have a small website or a small desktop screen. But when you just make it bigger, it doesn't cross the limits. What if you have a 2500 pixels resolution? It won't go more than this, but you can see that it's just going and going and going as much as the screen, but it's not going and not crossing the limits. But if you just go there, and if you just put another thing, I'm going there and I'm just making the container here, but this container will have a different class, class container fluid. A little difference. The fluid means it will be like the big one, but not a lot. I'm going to show you here. The class again, class jumbo Save it. Now again we have the Jumbotron. Fluid Jumbotron, whatever. Save it. Now go to the browser, refresh that. Now you can see that this one, you can see that it's just touching the borders, but it has a break. Like this one has the spaces, the very small spaces when we was cascading the screen and turning it into a mobile layout. Now you can see that it still have a distance, but this is the same. You can see that it's going the same and the same. If we just make them very small, now the boats became normal in a mobile layout, but in a mobile layout or mobile size, mobile resolution size, they are same, but in a big size, you can see that there is a little difference. This is a container, this is container fluid. So this is how we can develop a website. This is a kind of fixed container, but it's still fixed, but it's responsive when you have a small screen. So this is how the basic containers work. Well, now in the next lecture, we're actually going to go inside the grid layouts, different kind of grids, and you'll be actually understanding the logic of the grid, because here we just talked about the container. So stay tuned and goodbye.